This is Designing with Purpose, where we break down the thinking behind architecture for clients, for architects, for better projects. I'm your host, Kyle Stewart, talking with the team at Thrive Architects about what actually drives great design. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Designing with Purpose. I'm your host, Kyle Stewart, in the studio once again, this time with firm principal of Thrive Architects, Jeremy Bartlett, and associate principal Jeff Stowe from the Madison office. Jeff, it's been a little while since we've had you on, so it's good to have you back. Are you guys doing well today?
Yes, good to see you, Kyle.
Doing good. Good.
We are talking about starting a career in architecture today, and you guys have a lot of experience between the two of you, and I'm looking forward to hearing how you guys got started, some of the changes that have happened along the way with architecture, how it's growing and evolving, what you see for the future, and then what are the things that remain constant and unchanging in the industry. How much combined experience do you guys have between the two of you?
Yeah. Well, you go ahead, Jeff.
Might
All right.
require a little math.
Yeah, I guess, doing the math in my head, it works out to be over 30 years experience as an architect now. Probably got started closer to 35 years ago. And with Jeremy here, I don't want to, add years to him, but we're well over 50 years combined.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Probably
I got
pushing
like
60.
29, I think I was where I'm at now, if I'm trying to do the math right here. Yeah. 29.
Okay. All right. So
Yep.
what surprised you the most coming out of school or whatever, however you got started in architecture? What was kind of the biggest surprise?
The funniest thing for me was it hurt to sit. I can remember, it was the first time I had a job where I sat down so much. And I can remember at the end of the day, actually, like, it hurt. I'm like, holy cow, I can't sit in a chair like this. I had always had, active jobs. So, that was one thing. Then the next thing that probably almost everybody probably goes through is, feeling like that, that I don't really know anything in the profession, and I had so much to learn.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Jeremy. When you come out of school and enter the profession, it's kind of eye-opening to what you do and don't know, and it's mostly what you don't know. I remember starting back in the day when we had a mixture of, drafting tables and computer-aided design, or CAD was just getting started when I entered the profession.
That's why I'm so excited to talk about this today a little bit, because I kind of equate it to like what's happening now with AI. When we came in, everybody was drawing by hand, and many people were not able or not willing to adapt to the changes that were happening. And some of them were close to retirement or whatnot, or they just didn't want to accept the changes. And that going from CAD and doing everything on the computer to doing it by hand led to a lot of efficiency. It didn't eliminate our jobs. I'm certain that I remember people talking about it, even that they were afraid their jobs were going to get eliminated because they didn't know how to use the computer. Um, in time that did happen. It got phased out. But basically, if you were willing to learn the new technology, we just kept going in a different way. I see it a lot like AI now, the way it's affecting the industry.
It sounds like you guys got into the industry when it was shifting, which it is kind of doing again, as you mentioned with AI. But yeah, walk us through kind of the evolution of what has changed since the beginning. How did it start out? What did architecture look like in the beginning? We got some pictures of a slightly younger Jeremy.
Slightly.
Is that Dave in the picture with you?
That is Dave.
All right.
Dave looks a lot younger too. So
Yeah. So can you explain kind of what the process was back then versus what's changed? We can go through some of your projects too and the renderings that you can produce now.
Sure, I guess I can kick it off here. Like I said, we had a mixture of drafting tables and computers. People were just starting to learn, the CAD program, AutoCAD, and a lot of the stuff was done on old drafting tables with the straight edges. And I remember practicing my lettering when I was first signed on as an architectural apprentice, we had to, practice drawing, you know, drafting standards, which were put down on pen and paper or pencil and paper. And over the course of time, things started shifting over to the computer, whereas you don't use the pen and paper as you see here. You still use it for sketching a lot, but everything became automated as far as doing the detail work that goes into the drawings. I don't know if Jeremy had a similar story. I would imagine by the time he got in a little bit after me, it was probably all computers.
Well, we still in college learned to pretty much drafting by hand because that change was occurring. And yeah, I can remember you just reminded me of it, but I can remember practicing like lettering. And that was part of in school, like they actually graded your lettering, how good you could letter. Um, and then learning to draw by hand, there was a lot of tricks to drawing by hand, a lot of ways you could like erase things, copy things, because we did have the ability to copy at that point. You like could copy onto like this sticky tape and then tape that tape on the drawing. And there was a lot of little tools. There electric erasers were really popular. So if you want to erase something, you ran an electric eraser because that was faster than erase by
I
hand.
didn't even know they had those.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, drawing a straight line it was pretty important. Um, Dimensions to this day, they always say like a contractor shouldn't dimension, they shouldn't take the shouldn't scale off of a plan. Well, that really evolved out of when we were drafting by hand. A lot of times, like maybe the building changed in size, but you weren't going to redraw the whole thing. You would just note the dimension. Like, let's say there was a spot and it was 10 feet, and now that room was going to be 12 feet. You wouldn't redraw the whole building for this one room to get bigger. You would just change the dimension to say 12 feet instead of 10 feet and maybe put some break lines in it, you know, but you wouldn't redraw the whole thing. So, um, yeah, there was a lot of things that I remember now that you kind of sparked that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, when I
fascinating.
started dead on, I was CAD first day, and then I never came out of that, right? I was like the first person in our office at that moment to be doing that. And it felt good, but like I can remember a lot of people didn't trust it. And so trust, and we're going through the same thing with AI now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we can't trust it. Can't trust it. It's good, but we can't trust it. So, yeah, it's funny. It's just funny. It feels weird to kind of relive all of it.
Yeah, so then what was the next phase after computers and CAD? What was the next
Well, CAD
evolution?
started to evolve, so it's always been CAD now since then, but it evolved, right? And they had AutoCAD at the time even came out pretty early on. They came out with a program where you could draw it and it would be 3D. So they already had that in mind way back then.
Mm.
But it wasn't necessarily great. And a couple other companies came out with programs that probably did a better job, but AutoCAD kind of caught on, became the name of the market. And um, there was like I forget what it was called, Soft product or something like that, where you could draw ArchiCAD, I think was out there that you could draw that in 3D. There was a bunch of stuff, but then eventually what ends up happening here is Revit kind of late, like recently has become the evolution in CAD, right? Um, I don't know if
Anyway,
I skipped a bunch in there, Jeff. Maybe you got some insight, but
yeah, well, I think CAD is just one of the tools, and it has evolved over the year. Jeremy was talking a little bit before about the tricks and trades of hand drafting, and those same tricks and trades evolved through, the computer programming and drawing buildings more efficiently. And over the years, CAD has evolved to include 3D rendering, the Revit or the building information modeling aspect of these CAD programs have just gotten, you know, uh, more robust over the years. And now what was used as a simple drafting tool, now you can model full buildings and get 3D renderings. And AI is just another tool in the toolbox to help us along with these journeys, but it still boils down to being an architect and being able to make those decisions and understanding how these softwares work.
Yeah, so we're looking at a couple of the renderings that you guys have done more recently for projects. How were these made?
So we've tended to kind of use SketchUp as our main rendering tool. SketchUp is a 3D modeling software. It's fairly easy, has a pretty low entry point of learning, and it's very intuitive. And then we tend to run it through rendering software programs to kind of create the results. You could do the same in Revit, and obviously this is changing really quickly right now with AI. This is probably one of the areas that AI is doing pretty amazing things. Right, you can pretty much type in voice command. You can do add-on programs that allow you to experiment with a 3D model, change. You can even take like a 2D model right now and have it produce a 3D model from your 2D image. There's tons of stuff out there. So it's evolving at lightning speed and so fast that we haven't been able to keep up, to be really honest. This is an area that we're working on right now.
Yeah, it's incredibly fast how much it's changing. So now getting out of the weeds a little bit of the technical aspects of it, how is all of these changes, how is it better for the clients that you're serving? And with changes in technology, not all of it is good. You may miss some of the aspects of the old ways of doing things. What's maybe not as good when it comes to serving clients?
I want to start out like all the way back at the beginning, right? So like when we changed from drawing by hand to drawing a CAD, I mean, the critics, what they said then still holds true now, and maybe in some ways even more so. They said, as soon as we start moving away from this ability to draw by hand, we kind of lose the flexibility and everything becomes more rigid,
Hmm.
and when we're planning, everything looks more finite or finished. And that can be a problem. Like when you're early on in design, you want the flexibility and the flow and the movement and the ability to look at something in more of a sketchy idea. Nothing, the permanence isn't a good thing in the beginning. And so with AutoCAD, we always had to work around that. We kind of still like to try to sketch things out by hand. Sometimes it is just a little bit faster just to do some quick bubble diagrams or quick little visual sketch or whatever, to hand off information and whatnot, or just to display an idea in a meeting. Um, but yeah, the rigidity is an issue, and I think you see that and I think anyone who's played around with AI can see that there's an issue with AI in the repetitiveness of it, the nature of, oh, that looks like an AI image, like
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that out there now. And that's going to lead to just a lot of, I guess I would call it doldrums in design, the lack of creativity. So the critique that went all the way back to the beginning when this went into just CAD holds true with AI. We're losing a little bit of creativity, always losing a little bit of creativity. I still think there's a workaround, but we're losing some creativity.
Yeah. How about for you, Jeff? What do you see as the benefits of all of these changes versus some of the cons?
Well, the benefits help us maybe when we're not communicating with the clients inside our office, as far as there's project management software. There's these tools that help us speed up the process, but in the end, we still have to uh, make the decisions, communicate effectively with the clients, and then keep projects on schedule. Yeah, they'll help us speed up some detailing, or we can pull from stock details that we have in our CAD library. But ultimately, being an architect doesn't change. Clients still need somebody to guide them through the process. There's municipal approvals, so we haven't figured out how AI is going to get something approved at the local municipality level yet. So thankfully, I think we'll still have a role in the near future.
Yeah. So as far as architecture as a career, though, I mean, it sounds like the architect as the guide for the client, and supplying the creativity is still there and doesn't look like it's going to change for a while. It's just a matter of the tools and the
Yeah, I
speed.
would. Yeah, I wouldn't shy away from going into the profession whatsoever. Could we see a downsizing in what it takes in an office to make to do a large project? Absolutely. Yeah, the tools are gonna, you can do more with less. Absolutely, and that's not changed, and historically, it's not changed. I mean, it's always been the case. There's more efficiencies that come along.
Right. So, if you were giving advice to a younger architect that's coming out of school, getting ready to start, maybe is concerned about AI and their job being threatened in the future, what advice would you guys give to that young architect?
Embrace the tools. I think our industry needs young people that can come on board and know how to use all those tools. Guys like me and Jeff, we're slow learners now at this point. Um, we really are relying on the next generation to come in, know how to use those tools and excel at it. And, the cool thing about the next generation is most of them have been on computers or tablets or, since they can remember, right? They were born with it in their hands. So yeah, that's what I'd say is embrace the technology and don't let it affect your creativity. I think the art is still here. It's just now you have more tools, so you're pretty lucky. It's a good time.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, we're always going to need insightful youth, but I think what you also have to bring to the table is a willingness to learn. When you step into a firm, there's things that we didn't know when we got into architecture, and we're still learning on a daily basis. And even if you understand the tools to work with, you're still going to learn a lot coming into this profession.
I will tell you that in this, the learning is never ending. So, like, this has evolved the entire time that I've been in it, and it'll continue to evolve when I retire and I leave it. And if you want something that's going to challenge you your whole life, and you want and you look forward to those challenges, you always want to be pushed mentally, then I think this is a great profession. I think this is a great career path. There's not too many out there that are going to push you your whole career, and this will. You'll never be bored.
What is the biggest non-design related skill that somebody needs to learn to be an architect?
Communication.
I agree.
Yep.
Keeping
There
the
you have it.
client informed and being able to communicate with staff is a key factor.
It's a very collaborative process. Even if you're on a small project, you still have engineers to coordinate with. You still have a construction partner to coordinate with. So communication's like crazy important.
To wrap things up today, yeah, I mean, architecture isn't going anywhere as far as a career based on what you guys are saying. Really interesting how it's evolved over time. So thanks for sharing just the changes and the positives and negatives of how that expects the client or affects the client experience. And you guys do a fantastic job of continuing to guide clients through the process, bringing your creativity to it, as well as using the tools at your disposal to make it faster and easier. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching Designing with Purpose. We'll be back with another episode next week.